Well, Star Wars finally does something I've wanted them to do for over 10 years, but is it enough to hook me in to Star Wars Andor? Stick around and I'll share my thoughts. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of the series premiere of Star Wars Andor. The synopsis on IMDb reads, prequel series to Star Wars Rogue One, which I didn't know until like a day before watching this. In an era filled with danger, deception, and intrigue, Cassian Andor is his full name, so it's named after this guy. Cassian will embark on the path that is destined to turn him into a rebel hero. Okay, I didn't know that. I did see Rogue One when it was in theaters. I remember liking it, but I remember almost nothing else about it. The synopsis for episode 1 says, Cassian Andor's reckless search for answers about his past makes him a wanted man. I didn't know that's what he was doing. I knew he was looking for his sister, and then everything went off the rails for him. But reckless search for answers about his past. Yeah, I would have liked to have known that. It would have made me feel a little bit more like I understood his motivations, and I'll get to that a little bit later. Episode 2, synopsis, Cassian attempts to lay low on Ferrix as agents of the law close in. That's true. Agents of the law, yeah, I suppose they are. We'll talk about who the antagonists are in a bit. And episode 3, Cassian's desperation to avoid arrest leads him to a mysterious man with unknown connections. Boy, one of my biggest problems with this premiere was how much was unknown. So let's get into it. This is really, as far as like the animal we're talking about, what's the vibe? What's the story, the script, the pacing, the tone, the basic thing that this is, other than being Star Wars? I'd say it's the closest thing to a drama I've seen from Star Wars maybe ever. And that's not to say that there aren't dramatic scenes in some of the movies, but I mean, like, this thing, it plays out more like a drama with beats of, bursts of action here and there, but that's not it's not predominantly an adventure story. It's mostly a drama. It leverages tension and intrigue. It has a moodiness about it that I've not seen in other Star Wars movies and shows, a moodiness created by both performances and the musical score, which, man, I've never heard Star Wars sound like this. And the vibe of this score, which has this sense of a mystery drama type, feel to it, just gives the show an entirely different feel, which is something that I've wanted for so long. I've just wanted Star Wars to feel different. Keep it in the world, keep it in the continuity, all that kind of stuff. I just want a different tone to be explored in Star Wars. I've wanted that for so long, and finally, we're getting it with Star Wars Andor. There's also nice room given for performance-driven moments. It's not always telling us, it's showing us through these actors' performances, and I so appreciate that. That's not something that Star Wars is known for either. However, it is a bit of a slow burn for me, and I suspect that pre-existing investment in Star Wars Rogue One, the movie, is assumed. I'm guessing that, like, as there are things I'm like, who is this? What is this? What's going on? Like, why? I guess I feel like I should know Andor a little bit more as a character and should be invested in him more 3 episodes in than I am. And I just feel like there's probably some Star Wars fan that would watch this review or listen to this review and say, but he's this and this and this. And okay, I get it. Okay. I just wish I would have known beforehand that Rogue One investment is required for me to really appreciate and enjoy what's going on here. I think really strong prequels don't require that they stand on their own 2 feet, and maybe they've got some little things here and there that will reward people who are already invested in the lore or the story that comes after or whatever. But I really, when you're talking about adapting an IP from one place to another or expanding on it or whatever, I really always want things to stand on their own and don't think I should have to have read the Silmarillion or whatever the crap before I sit down and watch this thing. So my questions are, why is Andor looking for his sister? I mean, yeah, brothers and sisters, hopefully get along, have good enough relationships. You want to talk now and then, but he seems to be really urgently looking for her, on a mission to find her. What's going on? Is she in trouble? Are they really close emotionally? What will it mean for Cassian to find her? or to not find her. I want to get a sense of what the cost is or what the stakes are personally for Andor to find or to not find his sister. And I feel like the fact that he was looking for his sister is almost immediately forgotten when things go south, and then he has to be on the run the rest of the time. His search for his sister is the catalyst for his troubles, and his troubles are brought on in part by his own flawed choices. You know, he's being hunted for a reason I can't entirely argue with, that there is some guilt on his part that he is responsible for, that he should be held accountable for. And so, in light of that, I need to feel like his motives contribute to some greater good, or some really intense emotional, relational thing, or something that I can relate to in order to want him to succeed despite him making some understandable in some ways, but also very morally questionable choices in other ways, you know. And I do appreciate, I have to say, as much as I'm kind of criticizing this element of it, I appreciate the murky morality of his character and him not clearly having a white hat or a black hat or whatever. There were some promotional materials that said, hey, these characters are all going to be kind of living in that gray space, and like, well, we'll see, Disney, you know. But they're actually doing that in this, and I really do appreciate that, the complexity of morality and the messiness of it, and the tone. Man, there are lots of flashbacks to Cassian's childhood that, you know, I appreciate it because it's character backstory. Again, I really care about character. That interests me much more than story, but I need to know what relevance these story flashbacks to his childhood have to his character. In what way were they formative to him? I think we're eventually getting there. They're just dishing it out so slowly that I really don't have a sense of what the relevance is of these flashbacks to his present situation. We do learn by the end of the third episode that a mother figure in his life today as an adult, he met at some point and she began helping him as a child. But that point of connection is not made until the third episode. It feels like a lot of this backstory, the flashbacks, is just kind of data points that I'm not sure, I don't see how they're contributing to the drama, the stakes, and the tension of the main story. And so, I'm just not really pulled in by them. Then in episode 3, while trying to sell contraband that will net him funds to lay low for a while, he hopes, he meets a stranger who claims to know him and who will likely set him on a course to fulfill whatever his destiny is in this show, or perhaps what his destiny is in Rogue One that I have by now completely forgotten about. But I think that in these 3 episodes, at least for what I want out of this experience, many moments and scenes could have been trimmed, not cut, but trimmed a little shorter to make the first 3 episodes into perhaps a single episode running a little over an hour. I think they were each 38 to 40 minutes long in length, and I think you maybe could have cut that down into, well, at least 2 episodes. Maybe I don't want to go as extreme as saying, you know, you could have cut this down into something that was an hour and 10 minutes and it would have been a great, you know, single episode premiere. I think 2 episodes. And it really wasn't until the end of the 3rd episode that I became a little bit interested in what would happen next. And I'm wondering if that's actually a big part of the reason why they decided to drop all 3 episodes on the same day, to really, you know, maybe they recognized, you know, I think we need to get audiences to the end of that 3rd episode if we really want to hook them, you know. I wouldn't say that they've hooked me at this point, but it seems like by the end of the 3rd episode, it's like, okay, now enough pieces are in place for me to kind of wonder and be a little bit interested in what's going to happen next. Having said all that, again, I love the tone. It has a grounded and almost gritty vibe at times. In the opening scene with rain in this futuristic environment, it definitely had Blade Runner vibes to it. Blasters feel dangerous and lethal. You know, so often they're just kind of ricocheting off of things in the Star Wars movies, and you know we'll see people get shot that are like stormtroopers, and so they're in armor, and that you don't get a sense of like death at the hands of blasters. You don't often see people die, but people are dying in these first 3 episodes as a result of being shot by these very traditional kind of throwaway weapons that we've seen so much shooting around of in this other Star Wars shows and movies, and they are dangerous and lethal here. And I also felt some of the oppression that people are living under. Again, the music creates a mood unlike anything I've experienced in a Star Wars story before. So I want this tone, these kinds of performances, this kind of filmmaking, with an entirely original story that has no connections to previous Star Wars stories. I have wanted this since, I don't know, since we were, since watching the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, since seeing episode 7, I was like, I just wanted this to be more divorced from what came before. I've wanted this for like 10 years, I think. I want them to leap forward 100 years where there's no Skywalkers, there's no descendants that are recognizable like children or grandchildren of other characters. I just want to just jump ahead, keep us in the world of Star Wars. But I want a story that really just stands on its own and is not requiring any investment in any Star Wars stories that have come before. It just kind of, I almost kind of want a soft reboot, really. I don't want them to wipe away continuity, but I just want them to start with something fresh that doesn't count on my nostalgia or my previous investment in other Star Wars things, because I just don't have really any nostalgia anymore for Star Wars or previous investment, especially since it's been a good while since there's been anything Star Wars-y that I've been like, yeah, So for me, Star Wars has always been about the world and the setting, and the stories, when stripping away nostalgia, all fall short of the potential for me of the world of Star Wars and all its diverse and wildly imaginative concepts. As far as cast, I mean, I've already touched on this, so I won't say much more, but I feel like the acting was strong across the board. Even a senior officer in a single scene, it was the only scene he was in early on in the first episode, had some great subtle characterization to his lines that made me laugh out loud. Not because of the lines themselves, but because of the way he performed them and delivered them and what subtle things it said about his character and his attitude in the moment. So there's lots of stuff like that, And Star Wars is known for having some wooden or cheesy performances peppered throughout its various movies and things. But not one of the performances felt that way to me here. It felt like a real step up in the consistency of strong performers. So that was great. As far as stunts and visuals, I don't have any complaints. It's largely a drama, so it's not constantly using effects in bombastic and spectacular ways, but they are plentiful and they do the job fine without being impressive at the same time. Let's see, as far as themes, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation in the themes of this thing? It's interesting, the Empire is pushed aside as a villain and a corporation takes their place that is certainly loyal to the Empire, but they themselves are just a corporation. And it's a strange move because traditionally Star Wars has always been about the evil, oppressive government, not evil, oppressive corporations, which maybe in this particular society there is kind of a blurred line between corporation and government. I don't know. They end up feeling mostly like the Empire anyway. They're just not wearing the same logos or color schemes or whatever. So maybe the writer is going for some kind of anti-capitalist message? I don't know. It's not clear enough and at the front enough to really be identified as that by me. I think the most relevant moral element will likely come later in this series or season, assuming that at some point Cassian Andor reflects on his actions in the first episode. Does he feel guilty for what he's done? How will he deal with that guilt? Now, in the past, Star Wars has suggested a works-based type of redemption arc with very suspicious math, in my opinion, specifically that Darth Vader could redeem himself by sacrificing his crappily lived life and saving a ton of people on the way out, after first being responsible for killing a ton of people. But really, that sets the bar for human morality at lukewarm neutral, when really, we ought to be willing to give up our lives for others in addition to not killing a bunch of people. But I'll let you guys, tell me where Andor's character arc goes and any kind of moral themes that might be presented in that. I don't have plans to stick with this one myself. As always, I have no idea what your tastes are in movies and shows, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, skip this one, I guess. You'd have to hear some pretty amazing stuff about it from the right kinds of people in your life. to want to even give this another like a second screen. Maybe it'd be a second screen experience while you're playing a video game sometime. I don't know. The tone is a great step forward for what you want in Star Wars, but the story either expects you to already be invested and rooting for the main character, or keeps too hidden the reasons that you need to root or feel bad for him. It largely feels like a bunch of stuff happening, supported by a really great mood, but without actually moving things forward at the pace that you need in order to stay interested. This one is rated TV-14 for language and violence. And those are all my thoughts for now on the series premiere of Star Wars Andor. As always, I'd love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and click that bell to stay connected. All those things help out this channel. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review and so much of my content possible. For more info about the benefits of joining, you can go to patreon.com/SpiritBladeProductions. And then I hope you'll check out the Christian Geek Central podcast and stay connected to all CGC content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Hey guys, Peter Franson here. Want to play games to save lives? Then join me again this year for Game Save, our annual charity fundraising event in support of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, whose compassionate care and cutting-edge research has been saving the lives of children all over the world for decades. Joining the Game Save team only requires a willingness to ask friends and family to consider donating toward your fundraising efforts. Team members also usually do something fun and game-related to draw attention to their fundraising, like a special game night at your church or home, or like me, you could do a crazy 24-hour video game marathon. Now, I'm theming my fundraising around video games, but you can use tabletop games of any kind. What you do to raise funds is really entirely up to you, but by joining the Game Save team, you can get support and encouragement from myself, from other team members, and have more attention drawn to your fundraising efforts. You can get more info about the origins and heart behind Game Save itself at gamesave.christiangeekcentral.com. To join the team, just follow the invite link below, make an account at tiltify.com. Then from your dashboard, create a new individual campaign using St. Jude Play Live 2022 as your cause, and check Support an Existing Campaign. Type CGC in the campaign search field and select CGC Game Save 22. To help your donors, I recommend including CGC Game Save 22 in the name of your individual campaign as well. After that, it's a short, simple process to finish up, and you'll be an official member of the Game Save 22 team. After that, as team leader, beginning in October, I provide team members with weekly tips and resources to make your fundraising as fun, easy, and effective as possible. October will be our main push for fundraising, capping things off with my annual 24-hour video gaming live stream on November 5th. Although you are welcome to continue fundraising until the end of November 30th, when our official final total will be tallied. If you have any questions before or after signing up, you can reach me anytime at paeter@spiritblade.com. I'm happy to help, and I hope you'll consider being a part of this with me. I can't wait to get started. Thanks for listening.